We are at Queen Elizabeth Park in Vancouver, British Columbia, at the Wallenberg Plaque, which is at the southeast corner of the Quarry Garden.
Hello, I'm Gene. True heroism is not easy to find, but in the case of Raoul Wallenberg, we have the example of a true hero. That's why this plaque in Vancouver's Queen Elizabeth Park commemorates the life and courage of Sweden's Raoul Wallenberg. Who was Raoul Wallenberg? This young man from a prominent Swedish family courageously rescued tens of thousands of Jews in Hungary from certain murder by the Nazis in the Holocaust in the years 1944 and 1945. His bold, untiring humanitarian efforts and his disappearance at the hands of Soviet armed forces have led to lengthy efforts to discover his fate. Despite the continuing uncertainty about what happened to him, Wallenberg's actions have been honored around the world. In fact, he was the first non-Canadian to be granted honorary Canadian citizenship. He was twice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was recognized as righteous among the nations by the world's foremost Holocaust memorial. Now I'd like to hand over to Judith, who will continue the discussion on Wallenberg's life and courage.
Thank you, Gene. In July 1944, the Soviet Union's Red Army was moving westward through Hungary in order to oust the Nazi forces that were holding Budapest. However, the Nazis had already sent more than half of Hungary's Jews, 800,000 of them, to their deaths, and they vowed to continue their genocide in Budapest while defending the city to the end. Humanitarian groups and the Swedish government urgently organized a rescue mission for Budapest's Jews. Raoul Wallenberg was assigned to the Swedish legation in Budapest in order to carry out this mission. He efficiently set to work and issued thousands of protective passports to Budapest's Jews, stating that the passport holder was eligible to emigrate to Sweden. Wallenberg also organized over 30 safe houses for Jews. They were prominently labeled as Swedish properties, and this kept them from the Nazis' reach because Sweden was a neutral country. The safe houses provided food, medical care, and other necessities to the Jews who were there. Wallenberg even intervened in Nazi deportation operations personally, at considerable risk to himself, to ensure the Jews under Swedish protection did not end up on deportation transport or in death marches. It's estimated that over 100,000 Jews survived in Budapest through the combined efforts of Wallenberg and other diplomats from neutral countries. In July 1945, with Soviet troops poised to take over Budapest, Wallenberg set out to meet with the Soviet general. We know that he was imprisoned in the Soviet Union almost immediately thereafter. However, his fate remains shrouded in mystery to this day. We work to ensure that his memory continues as an inspiring example of civil courage and the ability of just one person to make a difference. And now, Jan Nordin, a founding member of the Wallenberg Sugihara Civil Courage Society, will now tell us about the Wallenberg Plaque.
This plaque, to commemorate Raoul Wallenberg, was installed with a ceremony in January 1986 from the original initiative of Robert Krell, a Holocaust child survivor. Local child survivors and Holocaust second-generation group members felt strongly that Wallenberg's courageous humanitarian work should be recognized. The Swedish ambassador to Canada in 1976 to 1980, Per Unger, who had worked with Wallenberg in Budapest in 1944, unveiled the plaque on January 26, 1986. The special highlight at the reception following was hearing inside stories about Raoul Wallenberg from Per Anger. Anders Neumüller wrote a detailed article about the event in Swedish press, the North American publication. 20 years passed before there was another official gathering and recognition of this plaque in 2006. Alan Lefebvre, who is the president of the Wallenberg Civil Courage Society, will now tell us how the annual Wallenberg Day event started in Vancouver that year and about our current society.
Thank you, Jan. In 2006, the Honorary Consul of Sweden, Anders Neumüller, invited the second generation group to co-host the 20th anniversary commemoration of the Wallenberg Plaque. About 80 people and 5 speakers attended the event on January 29. Lennart Osterlind welcomed all on behalf of the Swedish community, followed by greetings from the Deputy Mayor of Vancouver, who read a proclamation for Raoul Wallenberg Day. For the second generation group, Gabriella Klein spoke of how her mother and grandmother survived the war together in the Budapest ghetto, due in great part to the haven provided by one of the Wallenberg safe houses. The Consul General of Hungary, Andrei Molnar, acknowledged the valor displayed by Raoul Wallenberg against the face of seemingly unlimited evil. Anders Neumüller concluded the ceremony by laying a wreath on the plaque. Raoul Wallenberg Day in Vancouver has since been held annually around January 17, when Wallenberg was taken into Soviet custody. Up to 2021, there have been 16 Raoul Wallenberg Days events. They include a talk, an inspiring film on civil courage, and a concluding reception. The Swedish Consul and the second generation group presented these events with the Holocaust Education Center also involved for 6 years. In 2013, we formed the Wallenberg Civil Courage Society and began hosting the events. Shortly after, we started presenting the Civil Courage Award, the inaugural one being to the Honorable Ujjal Dosanjh, the previous Premier of British Columbia. Details of past Wallenberg Days are listed on our website. Here are the past award recipients. We need your support. We seek nominations for the Civil Courage Award, someone who, at significant personal risk, has helped others against injustice, bullying, or discrimination. And we seek people, especially younger folks, to join and help us carry on the spirit of Raoul Wallenberg. Thank you for joining us today.